Hello, today we are looking at section 4.7, and what we're going to be looking at is how can we describe transformations of polynomial functions, and then also we need to be able to write transformations of polynomial functions. So looking at some of these rules, these are all review. If I replace the x in a function with an x minus 5, that's going to take the function 5 units right. It's always the opposite when it's inside those parentheses. X plus 2, replacing that x with x plus 2, that's going to take us 2 units left. Now, if that number's on the outside of the x and not on the inside of the parentheses, and adding 1 to x to the fourth, that's going to take us 1 unit up. Subtracting 4 units down. If we have a function and we replace the x with a negative x, that's going to be our reflection over the y-axis. If we multiply the entire function by a negative 1, so we start with x to the fourth, we just put that negative out there in front, that's going to be a reflection over the x-axis. So that's going to flip us over that x-axis. Horizontal stretches and shrinks, these are the opposite of what you would think. If we're starting with that function of x to the fourth, but we replace the x with 2x, that's going to be a horizontal shrink by 1/2. If we replace that x with a 1/2 x, that's going to be our horizontal stretch by 2. If we have the entire function multiplied by a constant, meaning I've got that x to the fourth multiplied by 8, that's a vertical stretch by 8. And multiplying that whole function by 1/4, that's a vertical shrink by 1/4. So let's look at a function here. Here we've got this function. We've got a negative out in front of the function, so that means it's going to have to get reflected over the x-axis. And then if that x is going to get replaced with x minus 4, what's that going to do? It's going to shift us to the right 4 units. So right now this vertex is at 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's going to be at 7. And we also had that reflection that we had to take care of. So it's going to look something like that. We don't have to be perfect, just understanding that transformation. Okay, for exercises 2 and 3, write a rule for g. So we start off with this function. First thing we have to do is replace the x with a negative x. So if I do f of negative x, my function becomes negative x cubed plus 8. And then if I want to do f of negative x minus 9, that means I have to take this, which is negative x cubed plus 8 minus 9. And so that final answer is negative x cubed minus 1. That's going to be that answer to f of negative x minus 9. That's the new function. So this would be a reflection over the y-axis. This would be a shift down 9 units. All right, looking at this function that we're starting with, 2x to the fifth minus x cubed plus 1. First thing we're going to have to do is multiply it by 5. So if I have 5 times f of x, that means I'm going to multiply everything by 5. So I'm going to have 10x to the fifth minus 5x cubed plus 5. And then the last thing I have to do is I'm going to have to add 3 to this. So 5 times f of x plus 3 is going to be this entire thing I've got. But if I'm going to add 3, 5 plus 3 is 8. And that's going to be that function. So this would result in a vertical stretch by 5 and a shift up 3 units. Exercises 4 and 5, write a rule for g that represents the indicated transformations of the function. So we start off with this function. First thing I want to do is a translation 1 unit left. So that means I'm going to have to do f of x plus 1. Everywhere I have an x, I'm going to replace it with an x plus 1. If you have trouble doing that, circle your x's and that will help you. That's going to be reflection, translation of 1 unit left, followed by a reflection in the x-axis. So that means I have to multiply the entire thing by negative 1. Every term, this entire thing, is going to have to get multiplied by negative 1. So now I'm going to have negative x plus 1 cubed plus 6 times x plus 1 minus 5. This term right here got multiplied by a negative. This term did, and this term did. Finally, we have to do a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. Well, that means I'm going to have to take my entire function that I have at this point, and I'm going to have to multiply it by 2. everything has to get multiplied by 2. So 2 times this negative is going to be negative 2, and we're not going to expand it. Oops, cubed. We're just going to leave it like this. Okay, and that would be a way we can write it. Now, in big ideas, I don't think they expand it. I think they leave it like this when you do your work online. But if not, I would have to cube this out, distribute, and do all this. Just to refresh your memory, if I'm cubing something, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, I can do this. And if I'm cubing that out, it's going to be x cubed plus 3x squared plus 3x plus 1. That's what I would get if I had to do that. Now again, I don't think they're going to make you do it, but just in case, I would have negative 2, another name for this. And again, you don't have to write this down, but just kind of watch, because I think it is a good algebraic exercise. And so I would have this, and I'm doing this quickly, I know, but like I said, just kind of for enrichment purposes. Just distributing that all out, and it would end up being negative 2x cubed, got that, minus 6x squared, plus 6x, and that's going to be 10 minus 10. Okay, so this would be another answer for that. So you can check that out. They may give you that option, or they may give you that option. All right, number 5. First, we want to do a horizontal shrink by a factor of 1/3. What does that mean we do? It's horizontal, it's going to be the opposite. That means wherever I have an x, I have to replace the x with 3x. So here's the x, here's an x, everywhere there's an x, I'm going to have to replace those x's in parentheses with a 3x. Now this one they would expect you, I'm sure, to multiply out because it's really not that difficult. The last one's more difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. 3 to the 4th is 81 times 2 is 162. 3 cubed is 27. 3 squared is 9 times 2 is 18. Okay, so I did that. So I did this part. Translation 8 units down, that's going to be f of 3x minus 8. So I'm going to just have to subtract 8. Nothing else changes. So the only thing that's going to change is I've got 12 minus 8, that's 4. Got that, okay? Followed by a reflection in the y-axis. A reflection in the y-axis means everywhere I have an x, it's got to get replaced with a negative x. So that's going to become this. Everywhere I have an x, I have to replace it with a negative x. So I'm going to have 162 negative x to the 4th plus 27 negative x squared. Oh, hold on a minute here. Oh, this should be cubed. Sorry about that. It's like we can't have 2 squareds. Plus 18 times negative x squared plus 4. All right, so dealing with that, a negative to the 4th is a positive, so that's going to be 162x to the 4th. Negative cubed is negative, and negative squared is positive times the other positive, and that's what we get. Okay? Pretty easy stuff, right? Okay, so go back and take a look at that if you need to, and then just make sure you do the big ideas assignment. All right, have a good one.